start talking about why doesn't PBC have any professional women signed? And that kind of was the segue into our conversation about opportunity for women, opportunity of why I was doing what I was doing, why I would rent a motorhome, why I would bring, and do that for the kids. Why would I bring a team of Canadian females down to El Centro? Like, why would I put it on all female card? The fourth and the fifth round, Katie was, wobbly. Yes. I agree. All of that I agree with, but guess what?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 23 of the Good People, Bad Intentions podcast. And today as my guest, I have Ellen Connor. Now, Ellen Connor runs a gym in Sooke, a small town in British Columbia. And the gym is Sooke Boxing Club, and it's a non-profit boxing club, which is fairly uncommon. And she has a all-female boxing card that she runs called the West Coast Wonder Woman. And this year, May 20th, 21st, and 22nd will be the event this year. And the way I found out about her was actually from Sierra Ishuzade, a previous guest, as well as Wayne Gordon speaking on it when they had a team that went of Canadians who went to Mexico to compete in March. With a fight like Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano last Saturday, making history at Madison Square Garden, two females to headline a boxing event for the first time in 140 years. Number one versus number two, something that's really uncommon in boxing for it to happen. And I think if you're in it, if you're interested in having a little bit of a reflection on that event, this episode will also do that for you. But we will be also talking about kind of the origin of the tournament. We'll be talking about women's boxing in Canada, because I've seen a lot of great posts that I want to bring up. And without further ado, here's Ellen. Ellen, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to find out what you have to ask me and what you want to know.
Yeah. So first of all, and I wanna say at the beginning, I'm sorry if I mispronounce anything in this interview, because I'm not from British Columbia. I hear a lot of great things about the place. So you are from a fairly small town called Sooke.
Yeah, good job.
Sooke, British Columbia. Right. Okay,
you got it right.
So you're from a very small town called Sooke. What's the population like there?
I don't know the exact numbers, but it's a small town. Okay. I mean, it's a 2 grocery store town. You know what I mean? Like 1 McDonald's, 1 A&W. It's a pretty small town. 1 high school, right?
And it's about an hour away from Vancouver, is it?
From Victoria. Yeah,
from Victoria.
Just about an hour away from Victoria. It's as far west as you can go on Vancouver Island.
Okay. And you are a coach at the Sooke Boxing Club, which is a non-profit boxing club.
We're a non-profit boxing club. Yeah, I started it in 2016.
Okay, and that's really uncommon, right? Because a lot of gyms, they're usually for profit. So, can you start off by saying kind of what your goals were, when you started the gym, and how things kind of gone? Because there's a lot of stuff I want to open up with, but I think that'd be the easiest.
There's probably a lot. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I have to back it up a little bit further.
Okay.
So going through a divorce in my 30s, divorce is never easy. I found boxing in a town, Langford, which is about a half hour from Sooke. Okay. And I went in there. I was searching for something. Went in there, found boxing, fell in love with it. Started training, got my young kids into it. Well, my son was, I think, 7 at the time, and my daughter was 5, somewhere around there. And my daughter was too young. She had to go to karate. But anyways, I started boxing, absolutely fell in love with it. Said after 1 hour of boxing, I want to have a fight. And so trained for a fight. And in my 40th year, I had 4 fights.
Wow.
So yeah. And then I soon realized that, it was really hard being a single mom of 2 kids to train, have fights, because there was a lot of commitment to that, but it was more than just the physical for me. It was the psychological, just what it did, what it created in my whole life. It changed me. Um, and so I started teaching, helping teach there, helping coach a women's only class.
Mm-hmm.
And then my kids still went. At this point now, my daughter's into boxing.
Okay.
And some of the ladies in Sooke that I know, because I was driving to Langford, said, hey, you should bring boxing to Sooke. You should do it in Sooke. And so I kind of like, yeah, okay. And so I went to the gym in Sooke and said, hey, like, what about boxing in Sooke? And they said, well, hum and hawed. And I said, well, you know what, I'll just, let's start one class and I'll do it for free. And so one class led into a whole bunch of different classes. And soon I was finding that I wanted to be a registered club and I wanted to take things to the next level. But the Profit Gym had different intentions and different goals than me. It wasn't about money for me. It was about empowering people. It was about getting people involved in a sport that changed my life. And so I soon found myself with like-minded people because they were buying into what I was showing them. And I opened up my own club just with a promise that I'm going to give it my all, and rented space. And you know what? I just did it. It was the leap of faith, and started the club in 2016, and here we are. And so that's kind of how it started. I have a full-time job. I still don't take a wage. I don't take anything from the club. So it's still obviously a very deep-rooted passion of mine to make sure that people feel the way that I felt because it changed my life. And so that's kind of the Reader's Digest version of how the boxing club started.
First of all, I want to say that's very commendable because, of course, a lot of time, dedication, hard work has to go into running a gym. There's classes, and I can't imagine that it's easy doing everything, especially having a full-time job as well. So, I mean, wow, like that's amazing. And I wanted to say, you touched on a few things like with boxing, of course it's a sport like anything else, and people like to talk about, the Mike Tysons and the Muhammad Alis and the competitive side. But I liked how you talked about the focus of wanting other people to have boxing in their life because of how it changed you and made you a better person. I think some people kind of maybe lose that and think about boxing as this brutal and bloody sport, but they don't look at what good it can do. And that's amazing. And at some point, I don't know what year it was, but you started a women's only tournament called the West Coast Wonder Woman tournament.
That's right. Yeah.
What was the first year that came out?
So our first one was in 2018, but again, I gotta segue to that.
Of course.
So my young daughter that I told you that was in karate,
yes,
at the club that I started at, karate was too slow for her. So she used to sneak down the stairs and then go and hit the bag. And at that time, my coach said, you know what, you watch her. She's got something. She wants to be down here. She wanted to hit the bag, and all on her own. Anyways.
And context wise, how old was she at that time, roughly?
She was 5.
Okay.
5,
so she wanted 6. It at 5.
Yeah, she was young. She was really young. And so I took her out of karate right away. Karate she said it was too slow and she didn't like it. And and that just goes to show you that there's sport in everybody. You just got to find that sport. But anyways, so she started boxing. And when I was training at that gym in Sooke, she started really getting involved and wanted to have a match and, kind of carry it on. So at 10 years old, she got into the ring for her very first match. And she loved it. It changed her. It gave her a level of confidence that nothing else did. And so I started looking at different matches for her and places for her to go. And one of them was in San Francisco. It's called Beautiful Brawlers. Okay. It's an all-female card. So I reached out to them and I took her down there. So that was in 2016. I took her to Beautiful Brawlers and I was just blown away by it. It was all women. It was just a one afternoon kind of thrown together in this gym it's right by the beach. It was beautiful. Anyways, I looked around and thought, wow, I was blown away. The following year, I was mesmerized the first year. The following year, I took her back. And this time, not through that starstruck eyes, but actually looking around and looking at the logistics of it and how it worked and, really kind of soaking it all in. And that's when, at the moment, that I thought, you know what? We need to do this in Canada. We need to do this because it's opportunity. And that's really how it started. So I came back here after being down there the second year in a row. And I thought, okay, how do I do this? How do I do this? And how do I get people involved? How do I get people to buy into this? And that's really, and it's the brainstorming that happened from that moment. It's okay. So I can have a fight card in Sooke, because sure, you can put a card anywhere you want, right? But it's to promote it and get people to buy into it. And how do I get people to come? And so there was two parts to this. One was, okay, so I get people to come. Who are they going to fight? Right. And I don't have national champions. I don't have provincial champions here. I've got my daughter that's got a few fights, but really, like, who have I got? So then I thought, you know what? Why are we making a card just for the elite, just for like the provincial, the national champions? Why aren't we, just like myself, training women, training girls to get into the ring? Because so many women, girls, they want to do it, but they don't have opportunity to do it. So I created a West Coast Wonder Woman training. So it was 6 months out. You know what? You want to get trained to get into the ring for the first time, then we can do it. And so so I thought, okay, so I'm going to get, all these women that want to train for a first fight. I'm sure that if I put the word out, there's other women in other gyms that are training all across Canada, the States, wherever, that are doing the same thing. Right. And sometimes those gyms, it's a one-off, it's one person. So I pounded the pavement. I went on Instagram and Facebook and I looked up every boxing club that I could find. And I sent them messages, personal messages. Hey, I'm doing this. Do you want to be involved? Do you have any women in your gym? And so the first year I had 60, 65 girls come from as far as El Centro, California, in all across Canada, BC, Alberta, everywhere. Like, it was incredible. I thought, whoa, like, I just did that. That was crazy. And so that was the first year. Second year, a little bit more organized, learned from the first year. And I had about 80, 85 come. And now this year, registered, I have 108. So,
wow.
Right? Like, it's growing. And I have a team from Mexico coming this time.
Okay. This is a interesting segue, because the way that I first found out about your tournament and everything that you've been doing is Sierra Shuzade, who you had an opportunity to go to Mexico not too long ago and compete. Was there anybody that were you also there in Mexico with Wayne and Stephanie?
Okay, so Stephanie didn't go.
Okay.
So Sierra and I can't remember the two other girls that came out to West Coast Wonder Woman in 2019. So I met Sierra and Wayne and Stephanie, all of them in 2019. Okay. And they came out here and I met them. And so we kind of, we met each other and they were here. And then after that, I think it was during COVID that Stephanie reached out to me and said, hey, like, I know that you guys are always on the move looking for fights and stuff, because I've taken the girls down to El Centro, California. I've taken them to Atlanta, Idaho, LA. Like, I travel around. I go and find the fights, because they're not going to find you, right? Go and find them. Anyways, and so she reached out to me and said, hey, if you are finding anything, like, keep Sierra in mind, and she'll go. So fast forward, I'm putting this team to go to Mexico, and that's another story and how that all happened, but I will tell you that. Let me finish this one first. Yes. So I'm putting this team together, and there's a lot of girls that I'm reaching out, because ones that I meet along the way and that say, oh yeah, you know what, drop of a hat, I'll go, like, put me on your team. And it's called the West Coast Wonder Woman Travel Team. So, okay. It's just another division of what I've created, because I guess I can't think of something new and fancy. I just keep adding something to it. So I reached out, and anyways, some of the girls were like kind of on the fence, like, oh, I don't know if I can go. And then what happened was we were supposed to go in January, but then COVID hit again and we couldn't go. And so now we had to postpone it until March. Now I'm thinking, and then I'm just scrolling on my Instagram messages one night, not even really thinking much. And I thought, oh my God, Sierra, I should invite Sierra. But Sierra's in Nova Scotia. You guys are in Nova Scotia. We're in BC. We're going to Mexico. Reached out to, and Stephanie answered like immediately, yes, let me talk to her mom. Like, this sounds good. I'm like, really? And then within like a day, they were 100% on board. And that's how Sierra came.
That's amazing. I had her on. I had a bit of a chat about the fact that she was going to be going to this event. I seen that she cleaned house. She done it really well. It seems like she made some friendships along the way as well. She was very jovial with the people that she was competing with. And I think it was just a win for everybody. I think everybody had a good time from what I could gather from the pictures and the videos that I saw.
And you know what? I think that more than anything is, you know, in this sport, it's the opportunities. It's kind of like when you're on a hockey team or a baseball team or a soccer team, whatever, and you go and you have that team atmosphere, and those trips are so memorable. But in boxing, you know, a lot of times if your club doesn't travel much, or maybe you travel just to fight cards that are like within your province, that camaraderie is there, but not as strong as when you travel to another country. You're with a group of people that are all like-minded. Like when we went to Mexico, we had a group of, what was there, 12 athletes, and a good portion of, well, there was like 5 of them that are 16, 17, 18, somewhere in there. And those girls bonded, like, and they connected on a level that you just don't see. And those friendships will be forever, right? And those experiences will be forever. And so, yeah, Sierra completely bonded with the girls, and it was so incredible to see, because when we've seen Sierra out here, she didn't, like, it wasn't like a team, right? Whereas she was part of a team this time. And you know what? Hands down, 100%, I will take Sierra wherever if she ever wants to come with us, she is part of our team.
That's awesome. I had John Olhauser on a while back, the Crandall University boxing team. He talked a little bit about kind of what you're speaking about, where, you know, boxing is considered the loneliest sport. But when you're a part of a team, it kind of changes. You got people that can motivate you. Of course, you already have your coach yelling at you while you're fighting, but you have these people while you're training or while you're going around and trying to figure things out. They're there to encourage you.
And they understand, right? They understand. And it's not a judgmental thing. Like, they truly understand. Like, you get into the ring and you take a bad hit, or you give a really good one. They are the ones that are like, wow, like, that was incredible. Because they truly understand, right? Your friends from school, your friends from home, and you know, if they're not boxing, hard for them to really truly understand, because boxing is 99% mental, right?
Yes.
It's so mental. So yeah, I mean, Sarah was awesome. Like, honestly, and Wayne, what a character. We got to know Wayne.
Yeah, I had him on the podcast as well. It's crazy when he talks about how, you know, he trained Gerard Butler for Cinderella Man, and he talks about how, you know, Angelo Dundee had trained him as a pro. It's like it kind of rolls off the tongue, you know, but the rest of us were kind of like gasping when somebody says something like that. So that's cool that you're able to,
Oh, and he was amazing with the team, right? Here's this team of all these girls. We're in Mexico, like picture it. You know, and there's Wayne, right? And he was just, you know what? I couldn't have asked for somebody better to come along and help me. It was incredible. Like, again, you know what? I consider Wayne and Sierra just part of the team, and hopefully we get to do it again, because really those two, they made it. You know, they made that whole trip extra special. You know, and all the girls that, especially the ones that have been on trips before,
Yeah.
All of them said by far, hands down, that was the best trip. It was the best group of people that we, brought together. It was just, it was incredible. I could go on and on about the Mexico trip. It was just, it was perfect.
And hey, I'm really happy to hear that, because as far as boxing in Mexico, it's big time. I mean, the fighting spirit of people from Mexico, whether it's in boxing, whether it's in life, perseverance, of course, Canada, we have, I'm from a rural area. We got some of that too. But from what I gather in Mexico, there's always fights going on, which more so goes to your point that I wanted to come back to. When it comes to the competitive side of boxing, it seems like with COVID and everything that has gone on in the last 2 years, every other country has kind of still been putting on events. I mean, albeit, maybe they're not following the world guidelines per se, but like I talked with Wayne and we talked about Sierra too. And it's been a struggle for the Canadian, especially the elites of the sport in Canada, to get the fights, to get to not have to go to another country. I mean, John Olhauser with Adrian Roach and Sean Finnegan from the Crandall team, they had to go to the States and New York to get some fights. Of course, that was part of their thing, but he was saying it's been, the last 2 years have been hard to get the fights and the experience you need for the Olympics, the nationals, the provincials.
Right. And you know what? And that's the thing, right? We couldn't travel, right? I mean, even with the Mexico trip, we were supposed to go in January and we couldn't travel. So for those that want that, experience to move on to the next kind of level, super hard. The last few years have been super hard, right? But this is the time that, those that kept training, that's that dig deep. It's the correlation to life again, right? It's the correlation that life sucks. There's a lot of shitty things that happen in life, and it's the ability to keep moving forward, to get up, right? It's like, it's the cliche, but it's 100% so accurate. Like,
it wouldn't be cliche if Rocky did say it himself in five times.
Yeah, I know, but it's so
yes.
Anyways,
no, it's actually really good advice. It's, everybody says it, but it's actually true.
I mean, it resonates with me because it's so, it correlates to my life exactly, right?
Of course.
Now the funny thing about going to Mexico, so we come out of this pandemic, I gather this team of females to go to Mexico, tell people, hey, we're going to fights in Mexico, and people look at you like, what? You're taking a team of Canadian women and girls to Mexico? That's like taking a hockey team from Mexico coming to Canada. What are you doing? And I'm like, it'll totally be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be great. It's a great experience, right? And even there was times when I was training, because I had 3 12-year-olds going, and 2 of them had fights before, and one was brand new. Well, I mean, she'd spar with the girls and stuff, but she was new. I'd never had a fight. And people would be like, you're taking a 12-year-old to Mexico for her first fight? Like, are you crazy? I'm like, yeah, maybe. And then when she'd be sparring, I'd be like, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Anyways, fast forward to Mexico. Yes, those girls had tough fights. They were tough fights. But you know what? They are better boxers today for going through those tough fights, because now they know that, it's not just go in there. You have to go in there and try your all, because if you don't, those Mex girls, they're fighting for something. They're fighting for, for their generation. They're, for their next, they're hopeful. Hopeful in the sense that maybe boxing will save them. Boxing will get them out of their poverty, give them something. It's a different journey for them. It's completely different. Right. And for some of them it wasn't. And some of them, you could definitely see that this is their ticket out. Right. And so it's a different level of, of what they're fighting for. Right. But so it was great experience, because for our girls to see that and be part of that, incredible. Right. And just to go to another country. When you talk about sport, travel, that's a win-win, right?
Yeah, I really like what you were touching on about the whole travel thing, especially during these times, because I'm not going to put any names out, but I've heard from some people that have been trying to go to other places for competition. Maybe not so much now, but maybe a few months ago when things were looking really grim, they were getting kind of a little bit of a backlash, like, oh, like you're not, it's not safe to travel. Why would you risk this person, that person? And then there is, of course, like, I'll say this for the first thing, my favorite boxers are Mexicans.
Oh,
But there is a stigma about going to Mexico as far as safety. I mean, it was San Diego. The police in San Diego were saying that across the border in Tijuana, they didn't recommend their spring breakers to go down for spring break. So there's been like some issues there. And can you kind of comment on your overall experience? Like, are people misguided and
well,
not
I
wanting
think
people to travel?
well, I think that you have to realize where you're going to. I
Mhm.
mean, if you go to like Puerto Vallarta and Cancun, where there's high tourism and stuff,
Mhm.
yeah, but there are safe places in Mexico. I mean,
Yeah, of course.
you just have to do your due diligence and do your research.
Mhm.
So I'll tell you how our whole Mexico trip came about. So in 2018, when we had West Coast Wonder Woman, I invited a club, one of the ones that I found from El Centro, California.
Okay.
And so they came up, and fantastic people, fantastic people. They came up and then they said, oh, well, we're going to have an all female card down in El Centro, California. So we decided, okay, we're going to return the favor. We're going to go back to El Centro. So we did, our card was in April
Mhm.
of 2018, and theirs was in September, October of 2018, so just a few months later. So we go down there, and prior to that, I had Erin Tohill. Do you know who Erin Tohill is? You have to look her up. She
Oh, yeah.
was a professional boxer. She did MMA for a while. She now gets into bare knuckle fighting. She was
Really?
an American gladiator.
I think,
Erin
I did
Tohill.
was how do you
Are you looking her
is
up?
it Aaron with an A or
It's
an E?
ERIN.
Okay. Thinking it might be somebody that I had researched prior to this interview, but I want to, and then,
Erin Tohill.
oh, Tohill. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Pro
So not
boxer, gladiator. Yes.
okay. So
And from Chicago. Yeah.
she's from Chicago, but she lives in LA.
Okay.
So now we're backing up a little bit more.
Yes.
Sorry,
No,
I'm all
no.
over the
Hey,
map here.
hey, it's no
So
problem.
if you can kind of keep track of where I'm going here.
Actually, okay. I saw, okay. Don't worry about that thing. Um, Aaron, I saw in a video, and I was wondering who that person was because Aaron has tattoos on her neck. And I was
Yes.
like, okay, who's this? Because I like the ink. I was like, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. So I was wondering who that was because I was like, I wasn't seeing any more stories. So I was like, is this one of your fighters? Is
No.
okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
okay. So when I opened the club in 2016, I decided that we were gonna, and remember I told you that my daughter, I was finding her
Yes.
fights and stuff.
Yes.
And I decided, well, you know what? So after the second, the second Beautiful Brawlers, I decided, hey, you know what? Let's go to LA for fights. So I rented a motorhome, took 3 young kids down to LA for fights
Really?
at Grandpa's boxing gym in LA.
Okay.
Okay. Just this boxing gym, found a fight for all 3 of them, went to Grandpa's boxing gym. In the way in lineup to get the kids weighed in, there was this female fighter. And now I'm just trying to remember her name because she's gone pro MMA and she's
Okay.
doing really well too. Anyway, she was boxing at the time. It was like
Okay.
her second fight.
Okay.
Anyways, and we just got talking to her in the weigh-in lineup. Go figure, right?
Yes.
And so I was just talking to her. She couldn't believe, she was blown away that I rented a motorhome, brought these 3 kids down to LA for a fight. She's like, who are you? Anyways, and so we got talking. She's like, you know what? You have to meet my coach. You have to meet my coach. I'm like, oh, okay, sure. Who's your coach? Erin Tohill. Erin
Okay.
Tohill was her coach. So I told her about about what I wanted to do with the all-female card and what I wanted to do, because I wanted to put on an all-female camp, training camp, like a week long, have females all come in, see another division of West Coast Wonder Woman, and have this all-female camp and have a guest coach come up. And so she told me a little bit about her history, and I said, hey, would you be our guest coach? And she's like, well, hit me up. So went home,
Wow.
and a couple months later, I hit her up and I said, hey, do you want to come? And she's like, I'll come. I'm like, no way. Like, so we had Erin Tohill come to our all-female training camp. At the time, so she came 2 years in a row. At the time, she was dating Loretta Andrade. Do you know who that is?
Oh, I can
Loretta Andrade. So look them up.
Brado, and then
so Librado.
Okay.
Andrade. Andrade.
Oh, okay.
Now I got your attention.
Yes. Okay, a Mexican former pro boxer. Yes.
Okay. Now, he also works for PBC Boxing.
Really?
So do you know PBC Boxing?
Of course, yes.
Of course. Okay, you know that is Al Heyman.
Yes.
Okay, so Loretta and Al Heyman, Loretta works for Al Heyman, and Loretta is Al Heyman's right-hand man. Loretta does all of PBC Boxing. He goes to all the events and organizes all the fighters, takes care of them all.
Really?
Yeah. Okay.
Small world.
Keep up to my story here.
Yes, of course.
So, okay. So then El Centro, California. So I have this club from El Centro, California come up, and we decide we're going to go back to El Centro in October. I think it was September, October. So again, we take a team of females down to El Centro. Erin now, because she's been with us, she meets us in El Centro and she helps corner the girls because she'd already done the camp with us, right?
Wow.
So she says, hey, there's a PBC boxing event in Ontario, California. Librado's got tickets for you guys. Who wants to go? So a lot of the people that we took, they were flying back right away after the fights. But so a good friend of mine that went, another coach, my daughter, and another fighter, well, there was the four of us. We're like, we'll go. And so we went, and that's where we met him. And we had front row tickets, like all comp. He met us at the door. Like, it was incredible. Like, we got so backstage.
It sounds like a TV show.
It
sounds like a TV, like Big Brother. Like, okay, everybody, we're going here.
I know, it was incredible. Anyways, and we actually ended up staying in the hotel where all the boxers were staying. And yeah, and so we got to meet all of them in the hotel lobby. Librado's sitting there, we're sitting with him, and all these boxers are coming up to him and showing him respect, right? And he's introducing us. Like, he's introducing us, and it was just incredible. And so, the girls are off, like, talking to all these pro boxers, getting pictures, and it was totally over the top. And so we start talking about, why doesn't PBC have any professional women signed? And that kind of was the segue into our conversation about opportunity for women, opportunity of why I was doing what I was doing, why I would rent a motorhome, why I would bring, and do that for the kids. Why would I bring a team of Canadian females down to El Centro? Like, why would I put it on all female card? And just talking about, opportunity. And he started talking about that, like, he was like, yeah, I don't know. And he says, from where I'm from, Mexico, the girls, they don't have opportunity. And in fact, once they reach a certain age, they really don't have any opportunity unless they're the cream of the crop, and they have, but it's so corrupt, and, like, you have to pay so much money to be in the right association, because there's different associations, that feed into the Olympic team. Like there's so much, like, mapping there, like, and it's all money-based and driven on a different level. And so that started the conversation between him and I. That was in 2018. Like, that started that years ago. And we kept in contact. We kept talking, kept in contact. He followed what we were doing. I think it was just before COVID hit, after our second West Coast Wonder Woman in 2019, he said, you know what, like, I see what you're doing. I want to bring your team to Mexico. I want the girls, like our girls in Mexico, to have the same opportunity to realize that they can have hopes and dreams and have opportunity of an international fight. Some of these girls have never been out of Mexico. They've never been out of their own state to go and fight. Because maybe they're not the cream of the crop, or they're the girls, right? So it's all about opportunity. So anyways, COVID hit. That was, the end of that plan. And then, you know what? Yeah, exactly. But you know what? The desire and the perseverance was still there from both of us to make this happen, right? And that really is how it was a conversation that was started, that we just kept nurturing it. And then that's how we ended up going. So he's from San Miguel de Allende. I can't say it properly. It's outside of Mexico City.
Okay.
And his hometown is very close to that. And one of the coaches that he's been working with, her name's Lara, and she has a club there. And she had been training, girls, and that was really the essential contact. And so we went to San Miguel. And San Miguel, if you actually look up San Miguel, it's one of the safest cities in the world.
Okay.
So when people say, "Oh, you're going to Mexico with a team of girls," like, what are you doing? Well, actually, look up San Miguel. It's super safe. And so him and Laura and their whole team met us at the airport, and they took care of us. All the fights were made. And what's most incredible about this whole trip was it wasn't just for the elite fighters. Yes, we had the Sierras and we had other ones that are the elite fighters, but we also had a 50-year-old woman having her first fight in Mexico, fighting a woman that's in her late 30s that boxed as a kid, went away from it to have, to get married, to have children. She was actually came back to the boxing club to lose weight. Because no one, like, who would ever take a chance, especially a boxing nation like Mexico, who would take a chance on a woman boxing, in her 30s, that's already had kids, that's just trying to lose weight? Who would ever take a chance on her to have a fight? Right? It's incredible. Now that same woman is coming to Canada to have a fight. That same woman. Now, that's what opportunity is, right? But that's what life-changing, how boxing is or can be. But it's the opportunity. And so between Liberato and Lara and I, it's giving these ones that, for a lot of people, they would have been overlooked, right? But it's why not? Why not them? Right? And so that's how it all kind of came about. And so the team from Mexico, we met them and that was their first time for an all-female card in Mexico. And it wasn't just for the elites, right? Which was so unheard of. Right? So it was all about the opportunity. And then, fast forward to Saturday night when you see, Amanda Serrano and Clarissa Shields was there as well, but
yes,
Katie Taylor, right?
Yes.
Like you look at those and now you think, okay, PBC, like, is it now time? Like, how much more can we prove?
Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts just on that fight. It was such a lovely fight, and it was history, right? The first females to headline a Madison Square Garden card in the 140 years or so that the Garden has been having boxing fights.
Did you watch it?
Yeah, I watched it live.
Yeah, like, it was incredible. And you know what, like, yesterday and today, I've had so many people say, "Oh my gosh, like, did you think that Katie Taylor won? Do you think that Amanda Serrano won? Like, who do you think won? What about this? What about that round?" Right? The fourth and the fifth round, Katie was, wobbly. Yes. I agree. All of that I agree with. But guess what? It didn't matter who won, because women's boxing won.
Yeah.
That's who won. And that's why Amanda Serrano was so happy at the end, because you know what they did, it didn't matter the outcome. Because really, would we have a conversation if Amanda Serrano won by a split? Right? It would be the same narrative. The fact is that women's boxing won, right? They showed the world that, it's our time. It's our time. We can do this. Now the next thing is the 3-minute round issue, but that's another topic.
Yeah. Do you want to just give your comment on whether or not you think female boxing should be 3 minutes?
Well, why isn't it 3 minutes? right? They're saying that women can't do that. Like, come on, really? Did they not just prove that? But I think that there has to be some sort of transition period. And I can't remember what commentator was talking about it, but what about making it 12 rounds?
Okay.
Right? Leave the twos for now, make it 12, and then add to it. Make them 2.5 minutes, like add to it. You know what I mean? Don't just jump to threes. I think that like change it a little bit, tweak it, and see where we're at. But as far as women doing threes, 100%. Come on. Like you ask any woman in any boxing gym, what do you train? Like when you're sparring, are you doing threes? Well, of course we're doing threes.
Yes.
Like really? Come on. Right.
And I wanted to say, because there was a lot of, I tried following all the press to stay informed about everything about the fight. And there was kind of a consensus that was going around between Eddie Hearn and Jake Paul. And they were basically saying Amanda Serrano was okay with it, but that Katie Taylor declined due to, believing that she should get paid more for doing more of the more work or more time in the ring. However, I did see Katie Taylor talk in one interview about how the WBC had some type of restriction where if that new rule set were to be in place, that belt wouldn't be on the line, and therefore her undisputed status wouldn't be on the line, because Katie Taylor has been undisputed since 2019 at lightweight. And so this fight, she believed, Katie Taylor, that this fight was it's supposed to be the biggest fight ever, and she wanted to have all the marbles.
Right. And that makes sense. But again, I mean, whoever said the argument of the money, okay. So if we were talking about two men and men were said, okay, we're going to have a fight, we're only going to pay X amount of money and you're only going to do 2-minute rounds, what would the men say? Right? Like put it back to the other side of the coin, right? Or if they said, okay, we're going to pay you this amount of money based off 2-minute rounds, but we want you to fight 3-minute rounds, but we're not going to give you any extra money. Like, really? Like, if a man was sitting in that position, you know exactly what would come out of their mouth to say, like, if that was presented to them, right?
Yeah, they would want the full three, I would think.
So why is it different for women?
You have an absolutely that's a really good point, and I totally agree with it. I mean, the UFC, since they've had their women's division when Ronda Rousey came in, they've always had the same amount of fight time, duration, 3 5s or 5 5s as men. And I think it's a little odd that things are the way they are. I will say also, to add on to, it adds a little bit of drama to looking at the fight that happened this weekend, because as you know, in the 12th round, like, Katie's knees had buckled like twice. She was looking like, as far as the power, that Amanda Serrano was having a better go with the power. But like the major consensus that Carissa Shields has said in her analysis, which I agree, is that if you look at the fight from more of an amateur perspective, as far as points, who had the cleanest shots, Katie Taylor takes it as far as I forget what specific rounds off the top of my head, but if you look at the actual damage dealt and that aspect, and the fact that if you were to not have cut those rounds the way that they were, Amanda Serrano might have came victorious if it was 3-minute rounds.
But this is the lovely thing about talking about a fight after the fact. Coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda. This is what we're dealt with. Yes, the 4th and 5th round, Katie got hurt. But guess what? Katie tried to go toe-to-toe with Amanda Serrano. You can't go toe-to-toe with Amanda Serrano, right? No. But then she started to box her from the outside, right? And then you saw how she adjusted. Right? It's boxing. You adjust. You either adjust or you don't adjust. She adjusted. And guess what? But again, why are we talking about the specifics of it when at the end of the whole fight, it didn't matter? No. You didn't see Amanda Serrano say, oh, I got ripped off. You didn't see any of that. And in fact, she said, she came over, and this is the other lovely thing about female boxing, is, did you notice that both coaches came over, kissed the cheeks of the other fighters? were very supportive of the whole thing. And then Amanda Serrano, you know, when they were talking to her, she actually stood up and said, I actually wrote it, women's boxing, we're trying to put women's boxing on top, and all of us have come together. We can't have one person talking bad about another woman. This is a women's sport that we are trying to grow together. We can't be against each other. Women are supposed to support women to make this to make this as big like it is, right? She said that at the very end, you know, and the commentator was like, yeah, I couldn't agree more. But he was like, next, right? Listen to those words, right? That's why she was happy, because it has to be, no one is going to march for us. We have to do it together, right? So if you're slamming down other female boxers being a female, who the hell's going to pick you up? Right.
And George Kambosos Jr. didn't become undisputed. I had to look that up. Or Teofimo wasn't undisputed, but it's funny contrasting the Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano fight with like George Kambosos Jr. and Teofimo Lopez, because you know Teofimo Lopez loses that fight, and him and his father have whatever they go, and it shows so much class to Amanda Serrano that she's able to look beyond just her own personal gain and look at the big picture about what both of them are doing for female boxing and
right.
making history. Like,
right.
I totally agree with what you're saying. I mean, there's like a consensus with female boxing that is not within male boxing, where we're kind of all in this together. We're all like on the same boat. You know,
right.
and the men, I find they tend to just want to shake the boat, even though, hey, we're all boxers here. So if I do something bad to you, it does something bad to all boxers, right?
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, yeah. And you know what, we can hash out every round, but the whole point of this is the fact is that women need to support women, because you know what, if you probably, I mean, I wasn't there, but I do know lots of people that were there, and there were women.
Okay.
Supporting women. I mean, yeah, there was lots of guys there, but you know what? It just goes to show. And I think that with everything in the last few years, with people changing the narrative and people coming out and saying, you know, I want more equality, I want equal playing time, I want more. And even with the pandemic, it was a real microscope shot onto what's happening in our society and what's happening with, you know, of everything from our indigenous to our women, to how we've been kind of oppressed in a lot of ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Black Lives Matter that came about, you know, I think that people are starting to stand up and saying, okay, enough, right? It's our time. It's not just, you know, the white males, you know, I don't want to shoot them down, but because then I'm just as bad, right? I'm not saying that.
You're not offending me at all by speaking that.
Okay, but I'm not trying to, like, I'm just saying that it's time that others got recognized for doing what we're doing, right? Because I think and it's generational and it's instinctual that women have always kind of taken that back seat. And then you talk about race taking the back seat, right? And it's all kind of the same. We're in that back seat trying to be recognized, trying to have some sort of voice, some sort of say, some sort of equality. And I think that with the pandemic and everything that's happened, people have had enough. People have said, okay, no, you know what? It is our time and we can do this. And female boxing is just one element of that, right? And look at how this has all come about. 3 years ago, would that fight have happened? Do you think?
No.
You know, what about the Layla Ali's way back when she was starting out? Would that fight have happened? And she was the daughter of Muhammad Ali, and she didn't get the platform, right? She's from boxing royalty.
Yes.
You know, you've got fighters in Canada, Jelena, from Edmonton. I'm not even going to attempt her name, but you know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
8 times world champion, right? Do you know that people in Canada still don't know who she is? Right? They don't know who she is. That's a shame, right?
Yeah.
Now, if she was a male boxer, 8 times world champion, everyone would know his name. Why is that? right? And people can say, oh, it's on marketing, it's on, this or that, or, she doesn't have a social media presence. Bullshit. I call bullshit, right? Because you know what? We have women that have risen right to the top, and it's still not enough, right? And so what these two women did at Madison Square Garden, they shone this big, huge spotlight on women's boxing and women's equality, leveled the playing field, whatever catchphrase you want to say, they just shone that light on it, and all those women that are in gyms across the world, at every little corner of the world, training, you know what? They're going to see that and think, oh my God, maybe there is an opportunity, right? I don't know if you've looked at our social media at all. We put out a thing, Lloydminster Boxing put out a thing on the history of women's boxing. Did you read that?
I'm glad that you brought that. If it's okay, feel free if you want to read it, because I actually shared it and spoke with Lloyd and said I wanted to talk about it with you. So if you want to, I mean, I can include it in this podcast if you're watching it.
So Lloydminster actually went a little bit step further. So I posted the first one. So first of all, I will tell you, and a huge shout out to Lloydminster Boxing.
Yes.
100% behind their females. When I started West Coast Wonder Woman, that was one of the first clubs that said, yeah, we're coming. And that's on their docket to come every year. Right? Like, it's incredible. And they train a lot of females. They empower females. It's not a gym where, you're a female and you don't get an opportunity, because guess what? That still happens today. There are clubs. So what they did is they sent me this article, and it was, now, if you go on my social media, it says, please take time to read this. Is that the one that you're looking at?
Yeah, a little bit of history, Female Boxing Canada.
Okay, so that's theirs that they shared. And then this is the first one that they sent me, was an article from the Western. So it is, okay, let me read. This article is from a magazine that was put out in 1994 at the Western Canadian Championships held in Lloydminster. A bit of history. In the 1970s, females started to join amateur boxing clubs and started to train. But by law, it was a law that they weren't allowed to compete. The penalties to the clubs that had women attempt to compete were loss of club licenses, heavy fines, loss of sanctions, as well as loss for their males the ability to compete. So if you had female in your club and you were trying to squeak them through a competition, you could lose everything in your club. In the 80s, serious attempts to challenge the laws were made, to no avail, as even the media ridiculed females who box as freaks. As freaks. They were freaks in the media. And the highest power, the Director General of Sport Canada, shockingly a female, declined to support. So there was absolutely no support in the 80s for females to box. So if females were training in your boxing clubs at that time, it was more underground, right? It was more, they couldn't compete. Yeah, they could train, but, and even at that, if the clubs would even allow them. It wasn't until 1991, when CABA put a committee together and published medical rules for female competition, so female competitors, which served as a model for other countries, including the USA. So Canada set the tone, which is incredible if you think about it. Canada. We're not even a boxing country, right? And the very first sanctioned amateur boxing match was in Sydney, Nova Scotia, July 29th, 1991. I was born in 1971.
Okay.
I was born in 71. This wasn't until 1991. That makes me sick. Why? Why did it take so long? Right? And then people ask me, why do you put on an all-female card? Well, you know what? Read this history.
It's one of those things where it's a double-edged sword, where I'm happy that we were able to make that fight happen, but it's come on, that late? Really?
Right.
I mean...
And women weren't in the Olympics since, 2012. 2012. Right? You think about it. My daughter was born in 2005. 2005. 2012, women can finally go to the Olympics with boxing. This is ridiculous. I have one of the fighters that she's actually coming back to Wonder Woman this year. Her name's Loretta Armstrong. She's out of Edmonton.
Okay.
She's just 40 now. She's been boxing for quite some time. Do you know that she won several nationals, but she could never go anywhere? She boxed, but she could never go anywhere because where do you go? Right? I mean, 2012 was when we could go to the Olympics, but prior to that, so women could start boxing amateur in 91, but from 91 to 2012, think about that. Where were those women? They were boxing, but they couldn't do anything with it. Right? Oh yeah, okay, yeah, we can go and be a national champion, but you can't go anywhere. Like, how ridiculous is that? And you know what? We were told that was okay. That's the way it was. Well, you can go and be a national champion, but it didn't, like, yeah, okay, it meant that, but you couldn't go to the next level. So the generation that we have, the Sierras and other girls that are in these positions now, Sierra's 17, you know, it's about bloody time. But why did it take so much time? Right? So anyways, I'll get off my soapbox now, but
hey, no, I really appreciate the realness about that, because I think that's one thing at this podcast that I want to reveal or have is being real about, you know, something like that. I mean, again, you're very passionate. We're both very passionate about this sport, and we see the positives that it has in everyone's life when it's a part of their life. And we just wonder, it's like having a medicine in your cabinet that you've had for 100 years, and all of a sudden now we're like, oh, you guys can go and use that now. You know, we had it there for like 100 years, but finally you can actually use it. I mean, boxing has been around for so long. And I mean, we, as far as female sports, I mean, we've been doing really well, Canada, with hockey, with soccer. You know, we've hosted quite a few events. You know, we've had Olympics down here, and I'm surprised that we haven't pushed the envelope even more. Because yes, we are pioneers. We started in 1991, as you said, in Nova Scotia, but we could have probably done something even more than just 2012. I mean, that's a long time.
Right. And so now you fast forward to why I do the Wonder Woman. So it's there's kind of levels to this too, right? So there's the ones, the elites, like the Sierras that deserve some opportunity and deserve competition in order to have those opportunities and to go to the next level, right? We have to give her competition so she can rise to the top and keep going and keep having that, right? If she doesn't have those experiences, you know, the others that are getting those experiences are going to leave her behind, right? So she has to have those experiences. So there's those ones, but then there's the ones that, like myself, I went through a divorce. I wanted to do something. I was searching for something, for some meaning, you know, maybe, you know, nothing spoke to me on that level. And so really, you think of boxing in most gyms would be like, yeah, whatever, like you're not boxing, right? But I think that you're missing the boat on that, because there are hundreds of women just like me that in that predicament that are looking for something, some sort of sense of purpose, some sort of sense of belonging, empowerment, whatever you want to call it. Because you've boxed, you know that it speaks to you on a different level. It's more than a sport. And I think that's the biggest thing that people need to understand. It's more than a sport, right? It's more than a sport. And what women are doing is they're finding their ground in the ring. And it's not about the opponent across the ring from you. It's about their own journey. It's finding their own inner belief, their self-confidence. Okay, and let's not kid ourselves. Body image, right? And the fact is that we're a sport that it doesn't matter what size you are, right?
No.
I have a super heavyweight. Who freaking cares, right? You want to get in the ring and mix it up, and you want to find that empowerment and find something that speaks to you, that knows that, you know what, no matter what life throws you, you are okay. Because really, don't we all want that? Don't we all want that feeling? Right? And boxing brings that to you. You know, and don't fool yourself. It's still a sport in the sense that, you know, somebody is trying to punch you. But train properly, going through everything that you have to go through, you can gain so much from it. So when I decided about the Wonder Woman, there had only been one all-female card ever put on in Canada, and it was like an elite Ontario, Quebec, and it was invitation only. And so when I first, announced that I was going to do this Canada's first all-female card, I was corrected very quickly and told that there was already one. So anyways, there you go. There's my full disclaimer. So we were actually the second, but so going forward, I didn't just want the elites, right?
Yes.
As I explained. And so now, it's quite the mix of the elites and the ladies and the girls that are coming for their very first fight. We have tons of novices, tons of open. It's a real mix. But the whole point of it is kind of like what Amanda Serrano said. It's being able to come together to promote each other, to make the sport as good as we believe that it is, right? And that we have our place there. It doesn't matter, you don't have to be the provincial champion to have a bout. You don't have to be, a national champion to get the opportunity, right? It's opportunity for all. Because I'm telling you, if we said, say you know of a guy that's maybe in his 30s and he wants to box and he's getting into the ring for the first time, you wouldn't think twice about him having his first fight. You wouldn't think twice about it. But why is it that we think twice about it when a woman does the same thing? Right? I mean, and it's funny because I still get these emails and calls and messages from women all across wherever, all the corners of the world. I just recently had one, and I'll get to what I'm saying that they don't have opportunity. I recently had one where her gym doesn't believe in female boxing. Well, not in female boxing, a master boxing. So a master is over 40, right? So what do you mean you don't believe in that? That to me floors me, because I'm telling you again, like if the shoe was on the other foot and a guy wanted to have a fight and say, he got really into fitness and wanted to have a fight, always dreamt of it, but never did. And then he had an opportunity to, you wouldn't think twice. Now you have a woman in her 50s or 40s that wants to have a fight. Why is that so different? Why do we look at that so different?
I'll give you an answer. It's not different.
It's not different. So why is the opportunity not as available? Right? Anyways, it's just frustrating. So that's another reason why I do it. It's for those that don't have that opportunity. Not, it's for everybody. And it's about networking, and the thing is, if you've been to a card before or a fight card and a fight night, you'll see that they typically all run the same, right? Big competition, it's a lot of fun, usually there's lots of drinking, right? It's a lot of fun. Like, yes, fight nights are freaking fun. Like, don't get me wrong.
Outside of the ring sometimes.
Like, they're fun. But our all-female card, it's a little bit different, because in the sense that we're all like-minded. Obviously, we're like-minded because we're all coming to Sooke for the same reason, boxing. So what I want them to do is learn from that about the networking, exactly what Amanda Serrano said, work together, go back to your clubs. You know what? You see a new female coming in and she wants to fight, mentor her, encourage her, create female teams, create the narrative where we can talk about the fact is that, there is opportunity out there. You just got to, we have to believe in each other and help each other. Right. And so eventually we will change that. And the same as, young girls getting into boxing. I've had so many different people say to me, especially when my young daughter, when she was younger, would get into boxing, they'd say, "Oh, aren't you worried about disfigurement? Aren't you worried about, oh, your girl's going to be butchy. She's going to," like, what? Again, what's the narrative in your head? Right? Like, I don't get that, because for one, you put your young girl in boxing, 100% tell you, your girl's going to have confidence. She's going to have self-esteem. She's going to have confidence. She's not going to have the body images issues that a lot of other girls that aren't involved in sport, right? She's going to have a sense of purpose. She's going to have a spring to her step, because guess what? You've just given her so much more. right? Why wouldn't you want that for your daughter? And disfigurement, give me a break. I mean, boxing, there's checks and balances, right? You know that.
Yes.
You're not throwing a young girl into the ring or anybody into the ring, and it's not a survival mode. You teach them. Amateur boxing, you teach them. You teach them offense, defense, you teach them. You know, it's a process, just like anything else. Do you think that, okay, I'm going to put little Johnny in hockey. Do you think he's going to the NHL to have an NHL game, like right off the hop? Like, come on. Right? But it's so true. People automatically go to that, or they go to a movie. Oh, have you seen that movie? You know, what is that one with, oh, it's the female movie that everyone talks about where she falls on the chair.
Is it the newest?
In the corner?
The newest?
Hilary Swank is in it. Oh, see, now this is movie trivia I'm not so good at. Is Cinderella Baby? No. $1 Million Baby. $1 Million Baby.
Okay.
See, I get the prize. I got it first. So remember how she falls in the corner, sitting in the corner, and the chair breaks or something?
Yes.
You remember? And it's so sensationalized. And people automatically go to that, right? And she was ended up in the hospital. Remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. But parents of young children go to that. Do you know how many parents I've had ask about that? Do you really think that your 10-year-old daughter is going to have a professional fight and end up in the hospital?
No.
Right? Like,
I mean,
okay.
I mean, if it was a beginner going against a master, I mean, maybe, or like a advanced person, but that.
Okay, but a sanctioned fight, like, really? Like,
no.
Like, okay, common sense does prevail sometimes. Like, come on.
Yes.
Anyways, but those are just
and you
some
have
of the
third person, and you have the third person in the ring that's hopefully,
right.
And the coach that's watching their
of course
fighter
but
that they know. But
the thing is, you know what? There's checks and balances in amateur boxing for a reason. You're not going to have a 10-year-old that weighs 95 pounds fight a 16-year-old that weighs 120, right?
No.
This still is a weighted sport, and it goes by experience, right? You're not going to have somebody that's novice fighting open. Now, if they did do that mixed match, then it's an exhibition, and an exhibition is completely different kettle of fish again.
Yeah,
right?
No winners,
so,
and
right. It's more like sparring, working together, right?
Yes.
So,
which most people would say that sparring can be almost even more dangerous than the actual fight. I mean, the cumulative damage.
Sure. Yeah, in a lot of senses, sure. And then there's the things that give female boxing a bad rap, and boxing in general. Was that young girl from Mexico that came to Montreal?
Yes.
Right. And you think about things like that. Okay, so what's the backstory on that? Okay, because I talked to Labrado about this.
Yes.
There's so many people in Mexico that are willing to sacrifice for that payday. Right?
Yep.
So did she have any right getting into that ring? No, she didn't. But they wanted the payday. They should never have put her forward for that. But I mean, here we are again. We can't be backseat drivers and talking about that. But I think there's checks and balances in place for a reason.
Yes.
And I think that due diligence is a key factor in all of this. Know who you're bringing in, know who the fighter is. And I know that when there's something lost in translation, it's hard. But again, do your due diligence, right? Because nobody wants that on their fight card.
No, of course not. No. And that was a very horrific time, because I remember it pretty well, because there was, some, and I actually want to, if you don't mind, I'm just going to look up her name. I want to give her that recognition, and anybody
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, do.
Yeah, it's and I apologize if I butcher the pronunciation. It's Hinet Zacharias Zapata, 18-year-old, that died at Montreal, Quebec. The card, which, by the way, I is a very horrific thing, and it's also a very horrific thing for her opponent. because
100%.
like nobody that's in boxing wants. I mean, you want to win the fight, you don't want to do something like
Not
that.
at that cost. Not at that cost. No.
And it was group of Michel who was the promotion.
Right.
And this was a huge ripple in the boxing community. A lot of people were obviously really upset and in a very dark spot for a while about the state of boxing. And we thought we were beyond this, in 2021, I believe. Yes, September 3rd was when this
it's
article.
not that long ago. Wasn't that long ago.
So
but
we
you know
thought
what?
we were beyond that, but
are we?
are we? I don't know.
But
I
are
don't
we?
think so.
I mean, just my own observations.
Yes.
And I'm not going to say names or anything, but you see it even out west. I don't really watch the scene in Montreal, but out west, we have these fight cards and these Mexican people are brought in, Mexican fighters. And they are, boasted that they have these incredible records, these just like incredible records from Mexico. They come here and half the time they're not even in shape. They're pudgy. And are we bringing in punching bags? Are we bringing in sure wins for our males here? Because really that's what it's looking like. And so I talked to Librato about that. And he said that in Mexico, like even in the amateur ranks, so when we were fighting these girls, it's really hard for them really to have a proper true testament of their record, because they don't keep records like we keep records. We have our blue books for amateur boxing, and that blue book follows you all through your amateur career. In Mexico, 90% of them don't have these books, right? They don't have them. And they consider at a younger age sparring a fight, because think about it, their sparring probably is a fight, right?
Yeah.
So they don't, right. So they don't like control and keep their records like we keep our records.
Yes.
They don't. They just don't. And because I talked to him about this, I said, well, how can you not do that? And he says, they just don't keep the records. For what? Especially most of these Mexican kids, adults, whatever, they're not leaving Mexico, right? They are in Mexico. So why even have a record? Why spend money on a record book? We don't need a record book. Right. And not only that, there's two different associations there. So what association do you belong to? Like there's no point in even having a book. So now let's flip it over to the professional side. So professional side, you got guys that are working out in gyms and stuff. Opportunity promotion company comes from Canada and says, hey, or they know somebody that knows somebody. Hey, I need a pro fighter for this card, this weight. Yeah, I'll do it. What's your record? I don't know. Let's figure it out. See my point?
Yes. And it's important to keep that record, to know what bouts. I'm not saying that this was a poor record keeping, because I can see on BoxRec that she had lost. We're talking again about the Mexican boxer that we were just talking about that passed. You can look on her BoxRec and you can see that, if we were following the right guidelines, I mean, this fight shouldn't have happened. But I wonder to myself now, like without the records, I mean, what more fights could have maybe gone on that we didn't know about? That, a fighter maybe was fighting in Mexico, got badly injured from a fight, and then came overseas for another fight, came as all the bouts undeclared, so to speak.
Right.
Got knocked out the week before and then came here. And it really paints. I want to segue away from this, because it does really paint a very grim photo about boxing. But I really do think it's important that we are bringing this up, because we don't want this to happen again. Boxing is life.
Boxing is life. It's not take away your life.
Exactly.
But anyways, I mean, I guess just like any sport, and boxing is no different.
Yeah.
There are some downsides to it, right? The corruption of boxing has been known for years.
Yes.
There are some downsides to it. I'm hoping that, as we evolve, as we go forward, that there's going to be checks and balances even more so, right? So that we don't have an 18-year-old from Mexico that's just starting her life lose her life.
Yes.
and so hopefully we learn from this and move forward from it.
I think we've had a really good discussion already about kind of the gym, the event. We've talked about, going to Mexico, and then obviously we were going to be with this upcoming event that I would like to get to next. We're going to have some women from Mexico coming down. So first of all, I want to say that I want to give the correct time. So May 20th, 21st, as well as 22nd.
Yes, 3 days.
3 days. And Sooke, BC, we're having, is this now the third?
Third.
Yes. The third Coast Wonder Woman event.
Yeah.
And that's what, like, that's two weeks and some change?
I know, don't remind me.
Yeah.
I'm a little freaking out over that one.
Ooh, okay. It's still going on.
So much to do yet.
Yes. And that is something that I think was a little missing, a piece that I want to get from our earlier conversation. Do you have any background in entrepreneurship or business? Because a lot of people don't really have that drive that you must have, where you see something and you start translating in your own head, how can I make this happen in my own community? Can you talk about that? And then secondly, can you talk about the impact that your events had on this fairly small town? Like, has this been a big boom in the business?
Well, okay, funny that you should say any of that, because no, I don't have any entrepreneurship. I don't have any business savvy, business sense. I have none of that.
Okay.
My background is at 19, I joined the Navy.
Oh, let's go.
I joined the Navy. I was one of the very first females on a destroyer out on the West Coast.
Wow.
So I think maybe trailblazing is more of my entrepreneurship. Okay. And then I was in the Navy for 7.5 years. I left on the Friday and I went to corrections on the Monday. So I'm a correctional officer.
Okay.
Federal correctional officer. So 31 years in federal government. So there's no entrepreneurship. There's no business degree. There is no marketing degree and everything. And there's no web design degree. There's none of that. So everything that I've done and created has been through a passion of equality, having a voice, and just believing in something so wholeheartedly that, you know what, I'll figure it out, or I'll ask somebody to help me. You know, from our website, having a good friend of mine at work create it, to, you know, reaching out to people saying, oh, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me with this? And just using my voice, you know, and really saying why I want to do this and why it speaks to me in so deeply. It's so deeply seated in me that I want to share it. And that's really the drive for it. It's really the drive, is to share that experience with others. So do I know what I'm doing half the time? Hell no. Do I figure it out? Yeah, I figure it out. Right. And that's really where it's kind of come from. As far as our little town of Sooke, I mean, it's the same thing, right? Small towns are great. There's pros and cons to small town, right? Small town, especially ones that have had, you know, generations of people, of families that have been here forever. And I'm sure that in Nova Scotia, it's the same thing, right? There's generations that have been in the same small town.
I'm from a small town in Yarmouth, fishing community.
So you know exactly what I'm talking about. I am not from Sooke. I did not grow up in Sooke. So I am a transplant to Sooke. Okay. Even though I've been in Sooke 19 years, I am not old Sooke. So everything that you do is that you still have to be proven, right? It'd be no different than somebody moving into your hometown and starting something. People are cautious. People are like, whoa, what the heck? Are you, fly by the seat of your pants? Are you here one day and out tomorrow? So it's taken time. It's taken time to prove that I am not just here and here today, gone tomorrow. So now that I've had the club since 2016, Sooke is much more embracing. I'll put it that way. They're much more embracing. When we first started, you know what? And granted, it's kind of like bringing a stranger into your family. You want to see if that stranger's going to be around. You want to see what that stranger's all about. And trust is built over time. It's not just given, right? And so for our small town and embracing us now, yeah, it's a heck of a lot better. Do we have a ways to go? Yeah. If you think about what's being created by bringing West Coast Wonder Woman to Sooke, I mean, the sport tourism is crazy. Like, you think about 108 athletes and their families and their coaches, oh, my cat's tail, are coming are coming to Sooke, right?
Yes.
And we are promoting Sooke, right? We are promoting Sooke. But I don't think of it that way because I'm not a business, like, I don't have
Yes.
that business sense. I don't think of it that. I'm thinking about the other side of the coin in creating opportunity for women
Yes.
that I didn't have. So yes, it's a ripple effect in the business. There is a ripple effect to it. But when I started this, I didn't even think about that. That wasn't even my thought.
Yes.
So for you to even bring it up kind of makes me laugh because I think, wow, that's really that wasn't the intent.
No, I understand that wasn't the intent. I'm just saying, like, we often attribute these types of attributes that you're displaying, the initiative, seeing something, and trying to make an opportunity where otherwise there wasn't. We often attribute those characteristics to an entrepreneur or somebody
Yeah.
that's in business. So but you can also, because you're a nonprofit, you can also be doing it for the social the social aspects and trying to improve, the overall situation that we got going on.
Right. And yeah, and exactly. And I do it for a different reason. It's quite often that I have these conversations with the profit gyms, right? Especially the ones that, when I'm talking to them about, you should really like get.
By the way, when you said profit gym, I was thinking like ones where there's like Jesus on the wall. That's what I was thinking. No, for profit. Okay, yes, yeah. I thought you were like some type of Catholic church that was run down and they put a boxing ring in it. The profit
No.
church. Okay,
No.
for
Okay, so
profit. Yeah.
the
Okay,
profit
okay.
ones that are
Yeah.
actually turning a coin, right?
Okay, I understand.
So when you think about these, profitable gyms,
Yes.
and you think about who's coming out of those gyms, we have these coaches in all these clubs all across Canada, wherever, and they're really trying to make the next champion, right?
Yes.
And you see that all the time. They're trying to make the next champion, whether it be male or female, but they're trying to make the next champion. And so their focus is on the elite, especially in the 20-year-old age, right? And you think about how many women are in those gyms training, maybe a couple. Now, my sense, if I was running a profitable gym, this is what I would do.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone take note because this is what I would do. So you've got all the 20-year-olds that are coming in and you see some prospect with them, right? Especially some, there's one cream of the crop and you see some prospect and you think, oh my God, I got a provincial champion on my hands, maybe a national champion. Okay. Then you see the 40, maybe 35, 40, 50-year-old woman. She's training her ass off. She wants to get a fight and you're like, oh, what pain in the ass, right? Now think about it. Who's got money?
The older
Who's
one.
got money? The older one.
Yeah.
The older one, maybe she's divorced.Maybe she's already had her kids. She's probably already, into her career or maybe at the end of her career. She's got money, right? No, this is strictly thinking profit, right?
Yes,
Thinking business. So you take the 20-year-old and you put all your time and energy into that 20-year-old. They don't even have a career yet, or maybe they're going to school, right? They're not married typically. Now they may box for the next 3 to 5 years. And then what happens? They don't have any money in the meantime either. So travel is already, fundraising. So they don't have any money. They may go, but they may not, or maybe they go so far and they realize that they don't have the talent. You've just put all that time and effort into somebody that is not paying your gym, right? Like, think about it. Yes, the notoriety is awesome. You got that name for yourself, but really, is that paying your bills? I would, if I was a gym owner like that, I would focus on developing more women and older men. They have the money, put some more time and effort into them, because guess what? I'm 100% sure that they will pay for the one-on-one sessions that you're offering at $90 a crack. They're paying for a membership without a bat of an eye, right? They want to go to fights, they want to travel, right? Like, I don't know. Am I stupid or what? I just don't understand
Ellen,
that.
I gotta say, you're not stupid, but you're not dark enough. Let me tell you what you do. You and I've talked to people that have owned gyms, so it's like no secret, and I'm sure you have too. But a lot of those gyms, they like to do these packages where it's like 3 or 4 months or 5 months, you get this, blah, blah, blah. And they are betting that nobody's going to come back after the first week or 2 weeks. And the thing is that's really important about what you've been saying this whole time about what you're doing. That belief that you've been putting into the people that usually are put to the side.
Right.
You are ensuring that they have that belief in themselves to continue through and go beyond that week, those 2 weeks.
Right.
There's like Ronda Rousey is a perfect example. She had she went to the Olympics for judo. I think she got a bronze medal at the time. And then Edmund Targaryen, the infamous coach, head movement. He had this gym open. I know this because I read the My Fight, Your Fight book. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I haven't read it. I want to read it.
This guy who never had any female fighters as a coach believed that she wasn't worth his time. So she spent a year working at that gym to try to get his attention. And finally he did. And of course, everybody else knows the rest of the story. But that's not it takes an athlete to have the dedication to go a year without even being given any spotlight. Like, you got to give, it's like gardening, guys. You got to give every plant a little bit of sunlight, a little bit of water. If you just leave it to itself, it's going to die.
Right. But the thing is, okay, so as a profit base though, who are you supposed, like, think about who's going to be paying you. Like, if you solely money is your whole,
the parents,
right?
Yes.
I don't know. And so maybe I don't have a business sense. Maybe I'm all wrong, but
no, I don't think you're wrong. Might be not as nefarious as I was thinking. I was like, oh, where's she gonna go with this? But no, you're totally right. If you wanted to focus, and I don't understand why more gyms don't do that, because you might get a little bit of that notoriety from having that really cool champion, but do you want one really cool champion, or do you want like 10 professionals that actually are able to pay extra for the privates and stuff?
Well, I mean, and you think about gyms and they're always selling the privates and going to the next, like, oh, pay, right?
Yes.
Especially the profit ones, like, pay for everything.
Yes.
And if you're all about that, again, those people are going to pay the money. They're not even going to bat an eye out of it. They're not even going to try and negotiate and wiggle something out of it, right? Like, I don't know.
And the 20-year-olds, they don't have $70 or $80.
Well, they don't have that, right?
Yeah.
And if they do, it's a one-off, or they want to work for you because they want to work it off now. Right?
True.
So, anyways, there's my business savvy.
Hey, I really liked because speaking about corrections, I've talked about how the fight with Teddy Atlas is one of my favorite podcasts. It's inspired me. I was having a conversation with the co-host Ken Rideout last night in the DMs, and his background was corrections, and he met Irish Mickey Ward, who was in corrections as well in Boston at the time. And there is somewhat of a relationship with a lot of people in corrections, police, etc., law enforcement that get into boxing, and especially in the States, like New York and things. They have like leagues and gyms that are a part of the department or whatnot, and they continue.
Yeah, what is it? The PAL. There's a lot of PAL. Police Academy League or whatever it's called in the States. A lot of them are funded by police forces and
Mhm.
stuff like that. So yeah, you're right. We don't have that in Canada though.
No, we don't.
Yeah, we just don't have that in Canada. And it's interesting that we don't, because really, like, who's funding our non-profit boxing clubs, right? Think
It would
about that.
seem like the people that are involved more so,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Exactly. It's the people that are involved. Whereas in the States, they are funded by different organizations, like I said,
Yes.
the PAL and all that.
Yes.
We just don't have that here. And I don't know whether it comes from, I mean, in the States, it's from the inner cities, right? And where they were trying to create places for kids to go and, and feel that empowerment and have a sense of belonging and not be part of gangs and right, join in boxing and all the wonderful things that we've already talked about, the benefits of boxing, right? And I think
Yes.
that's where that kind of all started from. And that would make sense that police departments and police leagues would pay for that.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. We don't have the same here, but why don't we? Like, not that our kids are getting into gangs and Sooke, right?
No,
But
no.
there's still, I'm sure there's still things that happen in small towns that, that kids can get into trouble, right?
Of
And it's to
course.
find a happy avenue for them, right? A positive avenue. I mean, we still have it here in our small town, right? It's
Yeah.
finding a positive outlet for kids. I don't care where you are or what generation you are, that's always been that way, right? And giving kids that don't fit into mainstream a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose, right? If you don't have little Johnny and he's not playing hockey, or maybe you can't afford hockey,
Uh-huh.
right? Or you can't afford baseball or soccer. Boxing is always a great alternative, right? And a lot of people just don't even think of that, because for a while there, boxing was really, it was kind of put on the back burner. It was forgotten for a few years, right?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like it disappeared, right? We had the glory days of boxing, and then it kind of died off, and then it came back again, and then it kind of died off. It's like it ebbs and flows,
Yes.
right? And so I think now that with amateur boxing the way it is, and maybe it's coming back again, maybe it's going, I don't know, it's hard to read, right? And I mean, you look at the corruption of the Olympics and everything that's happening with that, you think, oh, are we on a downturn now, or where are we going with this, right? And it's really hard to predict. But I do know that fight on Saturday night for women getting into the sport, this is going to be a pivotal point, right? It is a pivotal point.
I made a graphic today
Oh,
about
okay.
undisputed champs, and I can send it to you later. But I just want to. I did like a little bit of research about the COVID era, like all the undisputed champs that have happened since COVID, because it seems to be like the trend. Every champ
Yeah.
now wants to have all the belts, and I'm looking at and I count Clarissa, even though technically now she's not undisputed, but if I look at the list, I got 1, 2, 3. I got 4 females. Franchon Cruz Dezern was also somebody who became undisputed Saturday night. Like
That's right.
Taylor, that was I think her second or third time undisputed. And yeah, there's actually currently on the roster of boxers, there's more undisputed females than males. We just got Josh Taylor and Canelo as and of course,
Interesting, isn't it?
when Devin Haney and George Kambosos Jr. fight in June, that might
Right.
change. But it's wonderful. We're getting these big fights, and then we're also getting the women are getting the fights that men
Right.
generationally have never been able to get to. Like there's so many fights that like everybody wants Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence.
Yeah.
Why hasn't it happened? And everybody wanted Floyd and Pacquiao, Manny Pacquiao before
Manny Pacquiao for years, and it never happened, right? I know.
Now the women are fighting each other. They're not scared. They're fighting the best. And it's like,
so what does that tell you then? What is that saying? What's the messaging again?
all in it together. They just want to progress the sport. They want to get the
100%. 100%, right? And it's all about, what do we need to do to promote this, to promote our sport, to promote ourselves, to get more people to buy in the sense that, you know what, We are, entertaining. As Amanda Serrano said, look at the round at Madison Square Garden. It was sold out. You know what? In the one round when the bell went, they actually talked because the ref didn't hear it go, and they actually talked and stopped fighting themselves because the ref didn't hear the bell.
Like,
right?
again,
it was so crazy.
It's almost like I don't know how to compare it in a politically correct way, but it's like two people that have gone through like a trauma or a similar thing, and they kind of know, like, you know what I mean? It seems like they just both know like how hard it was to get to where they are, and the respect. And again, I don't see it with males. I mean, yes,
But
there are
women fight for
respectful male
Right.
fighters, but it tends to be that's not what sells. And
No, but women fight for different reasons, right?
yeah, for sure.
Right. I mean, men, and I've said this quite a few times, men get into a ring to see who's got the bigger balls. Right? Like,
Yeah.
really, like it's all so, I don't know. It goes back to the caveman ways, right? Cavemen. You think about cavemen, bump them on the head, who's got the bigger, right? Like,
yes.
It kind of makes sense if you think about it, right? And women, it's different. It's a different agenda. It's a different motive, right? Everybody wants to be a winner, but it's a different motive, right? I don't know. Hard for me to articulate what I'm trying to say. If you get it, you get it.
I do get what you're saying. We've kind of touched on some of the personal things that you were going through that boxing
right
had kind of rectified.
Right.
I want to move now the focus to something that's kind of boxing, but kind of not. Are you a fan of movies, and more so, are you a fan of documentaries yourself?
Yeah, I'm a fan of documentaries.
Okay. How does it feel to have a documentary about this project and yourself being made by Jeff Scott Shaw?
Yeah.
He's got a team. What does it feel like, this all-female card documentary that's in the making, film?
Incredible. When he first told me that he wanted to do it, I should start with how it started.
Yes.
So when I told you that I decided to do West Coast Wonder Woman in 2018, I cold called, I messaged, I did everything, right? I got the message out there as much as I could. And those that took a chance on me, they took a chance on me. They took a chance on what I was setting up and what I had said that I was going to do. One of the females that came up was a female from Seattle. Andrea is her name.
Okay.
And she reached out to me and said, "Hey, I am so-and-so from Seattle. I am on the Washington State University boxing team. It's a collegiate boxing team." And she said, "I'm so-and-so, this much weight. Can you get me a fight?" I immediately answered, "Yeah, I can get you a fight. I can get a couple fights. Do you want a couple fights?" She's like, "What?" And so she came up with her dad, and she's like, "Well, do you have a coach that can quarter me?" And so I had Eliza Olson coaching her from Beautiful Brawlers because they came up. And so look up Eliza Olson, WBC champ. She's being inducted to the Boxing Hall of Fame. Eliza Olson. See, I'm making you research lots of stuff here.
Yes.
Eliza, Eliza Olson.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Yes.
So she ended up cornering Andrea. So Andrea came up and had.
By the way, Eliza Olson, I have seen in some of the videos that I've seen. Yes.
Yes.
So it all makes sense. So because there was mention in some of these videos, which I strongly recommend everybody check out, the YouTube channel, All Female Boxing Card.
It's all female card. Yeah, so just all female card.
But I didn't know that pedigree existed with Eliza. So wow. Right. Okay.
Incredible woman. Incredible. Anyways, okay. So Andrea said, "Okay, well, I'll come up if you can get somebody to corner me." So sure, no problem. She came up, and I really didn't know you got to think about it. I am one person. I'm the chief cook, bottle washer of everything that happens, right? Yes. So I don't have time to get to know everybody's backstory as they come. You want to fight? I'll get you a fight, right? So I didn't really have a chance. Like, I knew a little snippet of Andrea, but enough for me to say, yeah, I got you a fight. I'll get you cornered, right? Came up, had a fight. Next thing I know, I'm getting this email from this Jeff Scott Shaw. I'm thinking, who is this guy? So he emails me and says, hey, I'm Jeff Shaw. I'm a filmmaker. I'm doing this badass series on different women in Seattle area. And I'm doing a feature on Andrea. And I understand she had a boxing match at West Coast Wonder Woman. Basically, do you have time to chat? So we ended up talking. It was back and forth for a bit on the email. Ended up talking to him, and he told me more of the story of Andrea. So she was going to university on the university boxing team, a collegiate boxing team, and they had gone to nationals. So the NCAA National Collegiate Boxing, right? Yes. Again, we don't have that in Canada. They have it in the States. But the thing is, she never got a match because, and this is only in 2018, you got to remember, she couldn't go to the collegiate nationals because her weight class wasn't at the collegiate nationals. In 2018, she's 165 pounds. That's not an abnormal, overly big woman. No. Our average is 150, right? Like a women's natural average in Canada, I think it's 150, 155.
Yes.
She's 165. Tall girl, like, seriously, like, she couldn't get a fight. Anyways, I didn't know that backstory on her.
Yes.
And so Jeff was telling me that he was doing this series, Badass Women, and one of the women that he was featuring was this other female from the collegiate boxing team that had gone on to the collegiate nationals, obviously a smaller weight class. Yep. And she had won. So the best in all of USA universities, this female. And so he had done a story on her. So when he went to go meet her at the gym, he met this Andrea working out on the bag, and he ended up talking to her. This is before Wonder Woman, before she had her match. And he was intrigued by the fact is that she had trained on this team, was quite capable, was ready for a fight, but couldn't find a fight, couldn't go to collegiate nationals. And so he was intrigued by her because she was training just as hard as everybody else. And so he had said to her, you know, like, if you have a fight, you need to let me know because I want to come and follow you for your fight. I guess she had one set up somewhere in Washington, or maybe it was in Portland, can't remember where. And it fell through, right? Mm-hmm. Which happens a lot.
Yes.
And then I guess, you know, fast forward a bit of time later, she messaged him out of the blue and said, hey, I had my first fight. Okay, see how this starts now? I had my first fight. And he's like, what? You didn't tell me, like, blah, blah, blah. Where did you have a fight? Well, I had a fight in Sooke, BC, Canada. What? And now you can start the ball rolling. Like, how did this happen? Next thing you know, he's messaging me and saying, who are you? What have you done? And what are you doing? And so he decided that, you know, there was a bit of a story here. So I did a little blurb for his, you know, coffee book kind of badass series for Andrea. Mm-hmm. And he decided that he was going to come up to Sooke and just see what we were doing for the 2019, 2019 West Coast Wonder Woman. So he came up, he got a local filmmaker, Kelly Conlin, Nice Lady Productions on Instagram, to come and meet him in Sooke. He brought a sound guy, just a crew of 3. And they mic'd me up. Kelly followed me around. I don't even think she even said hello to me in the beginning. I think she said hello, and then because she mic'd me, so they didn't want me to know, like, to feel like I was mic'd. And so they followed me around. And next thing you know, at the end of that weekend, instead of this short little snippet that we're going to do on us, I think they were talking about like a 15-minute little, you know, snippet of what we're doing, to now they've decided to switch gears and they're going to do a full documentary. And so that's kind of how it all came about. And now, I mean, Jeff's been to Mexico with us. The very first all-female sparring event that we organized in Vancouver happened yesterday. He drove up from Seattle and he filmed that.
Okay.
Right? Like, so this is something, like, and how do I feel about it? It's overwhelming. Like, I think, wow, do we really have a story here? I guess so, right? I'm honored. I didn't think that my story was any special. Like, I didn't think that it was But I think that what it is like I said, it's the timing. It's resonating with people. You know, what Amanda Serrano said on Saturday night, that's what I say. She's preaching to my choir. Like, that's what I've said for so long. Like, we need to come together. And my whole mantra of West Coast Wonder Woman is building each other up, not beating each other down. Mm-hmm. I've said that since I started boxing, right? And so it's just funny how it's all come full circle around, and now like somebody actually wants to film that, and so it's over. Like, it's humbling and it's overwhelming. It's, you know, I'm honored, but it's not just me. It's not my story. It's all of the women, because everybody that, and you know this yourself, everybody that steps into that ring, there's a story, there's a why, there's a story, there's a reason, right? And if you dig deep enough, you will find that reason, right? And usually it's a personal reason. There's a component to it, because really it's all about you, right? Yes. And so it's pretty special when you can dig into that and peel those layers back and realize why people do what they do, right?
Yeah, and I actually had watched some of the behind the scenes videos. Sorry, it was like a podcast. I think it was it was maybe last year or so, that was talking about kind of what happened, because they went through, as a production, a lot of issues as far as, you know, they wanted to get to that funding stage, and then the pandemic happened. And I'm really, really glad to hear that they've been still following you and keeping up on that. So would you say that it's fair that this is going to be, this feature film is going to be like a compilation of everything that from was it 2019? 2018.
No, so 2019. 2019.
So yeah, 2019 till now?
You know what? It's so funny, because I asked Jeff, like, when he came to Mexico, or even when he, you know, he's come to my house, he's followed me to work, he's done interviews with me, like, no, not you know, but like, and I keep, like, I ask him, I say, like, is this good, or like, is this what you want? And he's like, and he always answers me, no, this is good, yeah. And I wish that I could see behind the scenes his vision as to where this is going, but he just keeps assuring me that this is good.
I saw your cornering and again, like the sneak peek, and I could see, like, there was this love in the corner that, you know, this, like, you got this. I remember you were saying something along the lines of, you got this, giving that reassurance. You were staring, you know, your fighter, like, you know, giving that confidence. You weren't looking around. You were, and I was like, wow, like, because obviously we hadn't talked prior to this episode, so you always wonder to yourself, what's this type of person like? And everything that I've gathered before this interview is showing that you are an amazing person, and it's been such an honor. And as kind of an ending piece, because we're getting close to time, I want to ask you this: Wonder Woman. Have you heard from DC? Are they gonna do a Wonder Woman comic where you are Wonder Woman? Are they gonna do that? I'm asking. I'm just wondering, does DC or Marvel Comics, are they gonna make a comic?
Well, you know, what's really funny is I actually had girls just want to box because they want to get on board and really be part of what pardon me, that's the other thing that I keep saying, and I see that I have 5 minutes and 45 seconds, but I see that. You know, and I keep hashtagging this or even saying it. This isn't a moment, this is a movement. This is a movement.
Yes.
And that's my new mantra.
Yes.
And I'm going to say it over and over. But anyways, they got a hold of me and they actually said, you know, like, DC comics, they might be a little pissed off that your logo is so, like, copyright. You know, again, okay, going back to your question about my business sense, clearly not there, because I didn't even think that.
It's actually the opposite. It is good business sense. Somebody, I forget who said, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than for permission. So you
I didn't even think of it.
Yeah. I mean, Wonder Woman is I mean, I don't know if you
It's
grew up watching
iconic,
one.
right?
Yeah, it's
She's
iconic.
iconic.
Yeah.
Right.
So
And you know what? The reason why I chose Wonder Woman is like, who doesn't freaking love Wonder Woman and for what she stands for? She's so powerful, right? You know, a huge icon of when I was a kid, Wonder Woman. Like, think about Wonder Woman. And the fact is, it went with West Coast, right? So
yes.
I was putting it all together. And then one of my fighters in the first year, I said, you know, West Coast Wonder Woman is so long. We need some sort of catchphrase. So she came up with "We Can, We Will."
Whoa.
Right? WCWW. We can, we will. All fits, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Now, and that was not planned. That wasn't by design. It just happened. So some things are just meant to be, I think. Now, as far as DC Comics, I would love for them to reach out and not be mad at me, but say we want to jump on board. I would love that. But
hey, I think they got more issues with people trying to share their new movies on these illegal pirate sites. They got more issues with that than somebody that's got a vision that's trying to, you know, improve female boxing. I mean,
just female empowerment in general, right?
If I was working for DC and I saw what you're doing, I would hop on. I don't know what they're doing.
Well, if you got any connections in DC Comics, anybody that's watching or listening, like
I know a guy in the comic shop that you know he doesn't shower that much, and you know
well, no, maybe
he's
not.
got Cheetos all over his hands. But he might know a guy.
Oh my goodness,
you might know a guy. Hey, we're getting close to time. You've been really gracious. I had a lot of technical issues in this one, more than I've ever had. But I really appreciate you coming on. Not trying to remind you, but fairly close to the event. And that could be a very stressful time for somebody in your shoes. So it means even more that you've come on here and shared your story. You know, Good People, Bad Intentions is all about sharing fighters and their stories. And more so than that is getting involved with things like mental health, getting females into the sport. It's a very important part. And so it made absolute sense for me to have you on, and it's been an honor.
Thank you so much. You know, and thanks for reaching out, because you know what? This is what it is all about, right? You know, networking and
4-hour time difference too.
Like, I know, right? You must be tired.
Nah, I'm good.
Well,
I'm energized. Wonder Woman. It just brought me back to being a kid.
Well, it makes you want to get in the ring now. Hop in there with those, you know.
Well, no, isn't it Hayabusa? They get those Wonder Woman. Do they have Wonder Woman gloves?
They do. I think they do.
Okay, they got to. If they don't, they're gonna.
Yeah, right. And you're gonna get on that.
Yeah. Hey, I think we should do this again. I really want to see you know, the results, and I'll keep everybody informed about the results of your event. I want to when the film comes out, which I think it should be no matter of time, right?
That's right.
When that film does come out, I'll certainly be pushing it. I'll be watching it. I'll be putting my popcorn in the machine. So
well, thank you. Thank you.
And I guess that's it. Take care.
You too. All the best to you, and keep in touch, okay?
Thank you. And I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Good People, Bad Intentions podcast. I had a really good time talking with Ellen. I'm really looking forward to seeing the results of this upcoming event. And also, I'm really excited to see the all-female card documentary come out. It looks like it's very close to being at least filmed, and then we'll see how long the post-production process is. But as always, everybody, if you enjoyed this podcast, I strongly recommend on whatever platform you're listening to, whether it's YouTube that you like, comment, and share, or if it's on something like Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We're on all the platforms. If you leave a like or a rating, it really does help out with the podcast. And also, if you're wanting to make sure that you don't miss any of the podcasts, make sure that you're subscribed on the platforms that you listen to. So that way, when a new episode comes out, you don't miss it. And like always, everybody, whatever time you're listening to this podcast, I hope you have a good rest of your day or start to your day. Maybe you're driving to work like I often do, listen to podcasts. In that case, have a safe drive. So, take care, and we'll catch you next time.